All right, welcome everyone to Changemaker TV. We've got an incredible speaker presenter here on the call today. I'm very excited and really grateful actually that you're giving us your time. Chris Harder, thank you for being here, Chris.
Totally my pleasure. I'm so excited to talk to you. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, it totally is. So just to give you a bit of background into Chris, I actually met Chris, came across Chris in an interview with Kate O'Brien on the Game Changer VIP kind of mentorship program that I'm in. I was blown away, absolutely loved what I heard, and I thought more people need to hear about the conversation that we're having. So that's why I reached out to Chris, and straight away he got back to me and said it'd be his pleasure to jump on. So really, really, really grateful. I know you're super busy and very successful, so yeah, just really appreciate it. So let's just give you a little bit of background into Chris. He started out 11-year career as an executive and a partner in the banking industry, and experienced plenty of success in that career, but lacked fulfillment and was completely burnt out. So he finally retired from banking in 2011, and in order to pursue greater success and fulfillment, partnering up with his gorgeous wife, Laurie, and her brand, laurieharder.com, and along with their Isagenix network marketing business. So now Chris handles most of the business affairs and business coaching for 2 multi-million-dollar brands, and has found the happiness that he was seeking in his career. And he's also launched his brand and the new hit podcast, For the Love of Money. So you need to go check that out. And it's aimed at helping people bust through their money mindset blocks and become unapologetic about their pursuit of wealth by interviewing business moguls and celebrities and exposing their exciting stories of contribution and so forth, and just proving that money is a tool for good in a world with many needs. I love that. And also on the field, on the advisory board for Isagenix for the last 2 years. Awesome. I mean, incredible background and obviously very successful, obviously. Tell us a little bit about that journey, Chris.
Yeah, God, where do I start? So, like it says, I started out in banking, and I rose up through the bank really quickly, got all the promotions really quickly, but the more I would get promoted, the more miserable I became. And I woke up one day and something just needed to change. I was at like an all-time low in terms of my health, my fulfillment, my body, my marriage to Laurie, everything. Because when I'm unhappy, then I make an unhappy partner for Laurie and not a good friend for my friends. Like, the trickle-down effect. And something needed to change. And that was when Laurie and I decided to lock arms and say, you know what, if I were to pull out of banking and join forces with the mission that she was on, which was part fitness, part self-development, more fitness back then, but it's really morphed into self-development now. And also in the network marketing company that we were just starting to dabble in at the time, we realized that we could work together on something that'd be way more meaningful to me, because that's what I was seeking. Like, I was seeking fulfillment. It was missing in my life. And so sure enough, I sold out of my partnership that I had at the time and decided to lock arms with Laurie. And that was like probably 6 years ago. Time has flown by, and we've done so many cool things since. So looking back, it was a pretty good decision.
Yeah, good. I really acknowledge you for that, because it does take some guts, and I can totally relate, because that's where I've been as well. So what was your biggest challenges going through that then?
Well, fear, number one. All the self-chatter in our head that what if it doesn't work out, and this is not the conventional way to go, and fear around money because we were rebuilding financially at the time after the Great Recession had happened. You name it. Fear was one of the biggest challenges. And if not for a partner like Laurie, where she picked me up on my low moments and I picked her up during her low moments, and we kind of kept each other going and kept each other, tight to the fundamentals that made us happy and made us successful. If not for a partner like that, I'm not sure I would have made it through that transition or even taken that step at all to begin with. So fear was one of the factors. The other one was, it feels like today everybody is an influencer. Everybody has an online program. Everybody has, a podcast or something like that. It feels like. But just 6 short years ago, it did not feel that way. It
Yeah.
was still uncharted territory. So to say we're going to go out and, dip our toes in these different things and find out what works for us and what doesn't, and have some wins and have a lot of losses, that was a rough journey. The journey never looks like this. The
No.
journey is always more of the up and down and up and down. And one day you wake up and hopefully you're a little bit higher than where you started. That's
Yeah.
what it really looks like. And that's what it looked like for us.
Yeah. So then what's let's kind of explore that whole, money thing then, the fear of money. I think it's a big thing, having a relationship with money, and a lot of people are, fearful of it or think that it's not okay to want money. Is that something that you experience and you see and hear a lot?
Well, absolutely. I hear it not just geographically, but I also hear it in different silos of different industries. I hear it everywhere. Matter of fact, if you start listening for it, you'll realize the bulk majority of people have some kind of money mindset limiting belief, or a lot of limiting beliefs that are holding them back. I'll give you an example. I grew up in the Midwest in the United States, and the Midwest is known for being very conservative. And you go get a job and you work really hard at that job, and if you do a good enough job for a long enough time, then you'll have a nice little retirement built up. But it's all this very, I call it a scarcity mindset. Like, don't screw up, you'll lose your job. Make sure you save your pennies because they'll compound into something bigger later. And while I understand that type of advice, there's hardly any talk, at least where I grew up, about take some risks, shoot for the stars. If you trip a couple times, big deal, because you can always make a comeback. That type of risk behavior wasn't really encouraged. It wasn't squashed, but it certainly wasn't prominent where I grew up.
Yeah.
And now I live in California, and that type of behavior is way more prominent out here than it is back in the Midwest where I grew up. So geographically, you see differences, but also just in industries, in this influencer industry, because I don't know what else to call it, things like what you do, Judy, and what Lori and I do. In this influencer industry, there's a lot of people doing self-development. So with that self-development comes the idea of I can accomplish anything.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong. Plenty of fears that stop people from doing it, but the general idea is it makes us feel that way.
Yeah.
But boy, when I worked in corporate America, that was not the overall feeling. Again, it was a feeling of scarcity around mindset. Like, what if I lose my job? What if I say the wrong thing? Oh my God, my boss is coming to my office this week. I'm scared. What's going to happen? And so that scarcity and fear mindset is everywhere, regardless of where you live and what you do for a living. Now, the key to getting past it, I think, is number one, realizing that there is something different. There are different possibilities out there. And once you realize that, then choosing to seek it. And what I mean by seek it is, start reading books that you haven't read before, listen to podcasts you haven't listened to before, watching shows like this that you haven't watched before, and start looking for evidence that might fit within your realm of possibilities, what might be possible, and start using that evidence to pile on what you think is possible. And when you start seeking out that positive propaganda around what might be possible for you, as opposed to the scarcity mindset of what might you lose, then you start getting something very different down the line.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I love that, because that's true. Even for me, growing up as well, that's the mindset that I had seen and I'd been around, in terms of, just, that's what you do. You go get a job, go to work, you retire, you follow that. For some reason, I don't know why, I never accepted that. It was a rejection of that, I guess. And again, I think that just comes down to individuality or experiences, or, sometimes we accept certain, values and beliefs of other people, and sometimes we don't, right? We reject them. But
well, you're totally right. And if I could just add something to that, I just did a great interview with a woman yesterday, I believe it was, and she made this great point to what you're saying. She said, when we're all children, we don't have any limitations, right? We're not born with limitations on what we think we can make or what we think we can do. The adults that raise us, or the adults in our community, or the experiences that we start to pile up as a child growing up into an adult, that's what limits us. As a child, when you say, I'm going to be an astronaut or a ballerina, I'm going to be a millionaire, I'm going to go to the moon. And it feels real to you as a kid.
Yeah.
And then somewhere along the way, someone says, that's not realistic, or yeah, you got to get a job, or
You can't do that. Yeah.
let's do something more realistic. And then you hear that more and more and more, and it squashes this ability to call your shot and attract whatever you want to attract in your life. It literally squashes the ability that we were born with. But the point is this: we were born with those desires. We were born with the ability to call those things in, to say, I want to go to the moon, and I'm going to figure out how. It's all the other stuff that starts to happen in life as we're growing up that makes us start to doubt ourselves and doubt our powers. And so regardless of where you grew up, I bet on day one when you were born, the sky was the limit, and it was just our conditioning that started to reel us back in a little bit.
Yeah, totally. It's all our conditioning. And that's the thing, you know, I have this conversation a lot with my clients. You know, are you going to accept that as your limitation, or are you going to say, no, you know, there's more and I can do more? And ultimately, like what you said, our beliefs and our values, all that, they're actually not our own. You know, they're someone else's that we learned them from. So the good news is that we can change them, right? So the money mindset, the limited belief in terms of the money mindset. What's your advice for people out there that can actually start to explore what that might be for them?
Yeah, great question. So, you know, what are the limiting beliefs around money? And then what can we start to do to start to break them? Well, there's an unlimited number of limiting beliefs around money. One of them is, I'm not worthy of it. Another one is, oh, that's for everybody else. Another one is, what if I lose it, right? There's plenty of people that have a decent pile of money out there that are so fearful that they're going to lose it. And guess what? Eventually they're going to lose it.
Yeah.
Those are just a few examples of limiting beliefs around money. And kind of like I said before, is once you actually realize that these are just sets of beliefs, and there's so much power in being conscious of something. And so that's where I'm steering this is in being conscious of the fact that, wait a minute, this is not my reality. This is just a bunch of stories that have piled up. I don't know where I got them. I don't know how I got them, but they're just a bunch of fictional stories that have piled up. Yeah. And I can choose to interpret these fictional stories however I want to interpret them. And I can also choose to go out and start looking for different stories to get me a different result. And that is the absolute key to starting to break through, is realizing, wait a minute, these are just beliefs. These beliefs came from stories. These stories are not real. And so if they're not real, why don't I start interpreting them how I want to interpret them and looking for stories that fit the accomplishments that I really want to have.
Yeah.
And consciousness is so powerful.
Yeah, definitely. Because a lot of people aren't aware of it, are they? You know, they're kind of operating and these things are going on in the background playing out, and they're not even conscious to the fact that that's what's running, and that's the kind of relationship or the way of thinking they have around money.
Yeah, and Judy, this doesn't just apply to money. We see it in our relationships. We see it in everything. Like, people stay in marriages because they have a scarcity mindset. You know, oh, what if there's not something better out there? People stay in neighborhoods because of a scarcity mindset. They might hate their neighborhood or their town they live in, but they stay there because they say, oh, moving to that big city might be scary. So these scarcity mindsets are not just in our finances. They're in every aspect of our life. And quite honestly, you can sometimes draw a very broad line across somebody and say, if you have a scarcity mindset here, you probably have one here as well. Yeah. And so when you start to work on these scarcity mindsets, it affects all areas of your life, not just your finances. And so your entire life seems to up level, not just your bank account.
Yeah. So how about for you? Like, what have you done to be able to change? Because I don't know. I mean, I'm guessing that no matter what kind of level you get to around money, that there's going to also be, perhaps the more money that you make, more limitations start to come in.
Yeah, for sure.
Is that
the limitations change, or the limiting beliefs change? So let's give you a very simple example. Let's say somebody who feels broke right now, their limiting mindset might be, oh, I can't seem to get a break. Yeah. We know that's not true, but that's how they genuinely feel. Yeah. So then they finally become conscious of that. They break through that and they make a little bit of money and they start to pile this money up. And let's say now they've got $1 million. Now they go from, I can't seem to catch a break, to, oh my God, what if I lose it? That's another scarcity mindset. So now they're hoarding their $1 million. They won't invest it in other things that would make them more. They've got them in conservative investments. They're so scared to take a risk on something. A lot of times they pull back on the very actions that got them that $1 million. And what do you know? The income starts to dip, and you have to start dipping into that principal. And before you know it, some of or all of your $1 million goes away because of that scarcity mindset of, what if I lose it? Yeah. So now people have the scarcity mindset of, oh, see, I knew it was too good to be true. But if they can break through that one and realize that, no, if you've got the tools to get there once, you've got the tools to get there every single time. If they can realize that and break through that scarcity mindset, then they'll ramp right back up to the top again. Maybe this time they have 5 million or 10 million or 100 million, who knows? And they've learned a lesson from last time that this protectionist scarcity mindset it didn't work for me last time. So this time I'm going to continue taking a little bit of a risk and whatnot. So it's an evolution. It's an evolution in the different types of fears and limiting beliefs that you encounter along your journey.
Yeah. And so what do you recommend then for people of bring it out into the consciousness? What else? What other kind of bits of advice would you have, or what have you done that's worked for you?
Well, you've got to seek out the people and the surroundings that reinforce your new beliefs. And this is crucial. So join a mastermind where you feel like the least worthy people in that mastermind group. Move into a neighborhood where the people and the homes lift you up, not where you're just not where you're the top of that neighborhood. Start to purposely seek out people that are going to reinforce your new positive beliefs and your new goals, not the old crowd that you used to hang with when you were having issues.
Yeah, great advice. And then the focus. What do you choose to focus on now to help you to continue to move forward towards creating what it is that you want?
So what I focus on now is routine. And this is going to sound silly, but your routine is absolutely going to keep you on the right track or bring you right back to where you started. So our routine now looks very different, our daily routine, than it did when we were struggling or when we were unhappy.
Yeah.
Back when we were unhappy, we woke up to an alarm clock because our job said we had to be there. Now we wake up when we feel like is the most productive time to wake up for us. Back when we were struggling, we would put everybody else first. And then if there was any energy and time left over, we'd put ourselves next.
Yeah.
Now, Lori and I put ourselves first so that we can be the best version of ourselves for everybody later. And what happens is when you start to make these shifts in routine, these shifts in action, then it starts to keep you on that upward trajectory instead of doing the things that kept you flat back when you were struggling. So now when Lori and I wake up, our routine looks like this. We wake up and we wake up to a positive mantra. I literally wake her up to the mantra of where I'm happier, healthier, wealthier, more fit than I was yesterday. And I make her say it. And I make her say it a few times until she says it with meaning, and she hates me in the morning for it. And then I right away, the minute she says it, I'll kind of like say a quick 1 to 2 minute prayer of just things I'm grateful for. I mean, it's really juvenile if you could hear it in my head. It's things like, I'm so grateful that I've got this warm bed. I'm so grateful that my dog is laying across my legs. I'm so grateful for this beautiful home. And it's literally just this juvenile list of things for a minute or two that I'm grateful for. But guess what? After waking up to a positive mantra and then making an inventory of things you're grateful for, you've got a pretty positive start to the day, right? Like now you are owning your thoughts for the day as opposed to the day dictating your thoughts for you. So we come downstairs, we get our coffee, and what do we do next? We make sure that we're reading something positive or developmental in the morning so that we're filling our heads with stuff that's going to reinforce where we're going. And then we do a quick meditation, because I really believe that meditating is your reset button or your ability to clean the slate and put on the slate what you want for the day, call in what you want for the day. And listen, we don't sit there for an hour in silence. We do like 10 minutes every morning. Like we're very realistic about it.
Yeah.
And because I'd rather see you do 5 or 10 minutes of meditation every single day than try to do 20 minutes or 30 minutes and only get it done once a week because it's too much.
Yeah.
And then at that point, we go and we get our workouts in. And this is all before anybody is allowed to infiltrate our day. We don't answer work emails. We don't schedule any appointments. We won't take any calls until we are done with all of this stuff first. And that routine is what keeps us on this upward trajectory, because our bodies are right, our thoughts are right, our actions are right, our relationship is right. Everything about it reinforces where we're going.
Mm. Yeah, I love it. Love it. I think it's really powerful. I have a similar routine actually, but I haven't been very consistent with it. But I'm really excited about doing that consistently now that I'm making myself a priority. It is easy to, start something and then, let life carry you away. But I think, as you said, like really making that the key and making like stamping your foot in the ground and saying that that's the boundary. We don't let anyone else. I like that kind of mindset of infiltrating until we take care of us. It's so important. I think we're so, as humans, it's so easy to do for others and give for others than we do for ourselves. We don't take care of ourselves. It's crazy.
And the problem is it's fear, once again, that stops us from doing that, because the fears that crept in for us at first when we said, hey, we're going to put ourselves first are, well, what if there's emails that we have to get to really quick in the morning? What if I have to confirm these appointments? What if this person needs to hear from me? What if I can't make this appointment any other time than the morning? Like those fears are what start to chip away at your routine. And when they chip away at your routine, you wake up one day and you say, what happened to all that momentum that I had? Yeah. And then you realize, if you really look hard enough, I got out of that routine that was good for me because I allowed other people to start infiltrating my day and my thoughts as opposed to me dictating it.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. And so do you think, everyone's kind of, in terms of kind of just going back a little bit to the mindset around money, so much of it is through, as we spoke about, the people that we're around. And, some people, I guess, have more opportunity than others because of their upbringing. Maybe their family, they're from a higher income, wealthier family, or their parents are entrepreneurs. And, obviously it could be giving someone better opportunity, but also at the same time, they could also reject that and not utilize that.
Yeah, I love that point. I love that question because it's all BS. I hope you don't mind me saying that.
Oh, good. Yeah.
And here's what I mean. Like anybody who is saying, I'm a victim, I didn't grow up with the education or the financial head start. For every person saying that, there's somebody who's saying, oh, I grew up with these parents that totally messed me up. They gave me everything I wanted, and now I've got no survival skills, and I don't even know how to fend for my own, right? Yeah. I mean, come on. Every single human being has the same ability to say, here are my skill sets, like here's my assets, here's what I'm not good at, and then decide, once you take inventory of that, say, good, I'm going to play to my strengths, and I'm going to either get better at my weaknesses or find somebody or something to fill in my weaknesses. Because we all have a laundry list of strengths and we all have a laundry list of weaknesses, no matter where you started, no matter what your upbringing was. I interviewed, my last two interviews, one woman came over from Russia when she was 19 years old with $450 that she borrowed and is now a multimillionaire. The gentleman I interviewed, he came over from the Ukraine as a young teen and started working literally as a 13-year-old, started working literally the day that his parents got him over here so that he and all his brothers and sisters and parents could all chip in together to make rent in this tiny, crappy one-bedroom apartment that they were all crammed into. And he couldn't speak English. He got made fun of. And guess what? He also is a multimillionaire. So the point is, I don't care where you start. I don't care how far down in the hole you think you are. Every single person can get to any single height that they actually want to. Yeah.
It's all about wanting it, going after it. Just, and as we spoke about, I think before, there's so many resources now. There's no lack of information, of people out there that are willing to help you, it's just the resources are there.
Judy, not only are the resources there, it's never been easier to succeed right now. Yeah. No matter what country you're in, you can have access. I mean, not every single country, but most countries, you have access to the internet. The internet has everything you would ever want to know about how to succeed in anything. You know, I did this episode called Just Effing Google It, because that's my response to a lot of people. I'm not kidding you. Well, I don't know how to start a YouTube channel. Google it. Oh, I don't know how to do an e-course. Google it. Oh, I don't know how to put an event together. Google it. You can, I'm not kidding. It is free. It is freaking free to find out the answers, how to do everything in the world today. And on top of that, the information that's available, nobody's keeping secrets. Like every single one of my influencer friends, and I'm talking the multi-millionaires with millions of followers, right? The best of the best. Every one of my influencer friends, they give away their best information for free, because that is the business model these days. So no one's holding any secrets back. If you choose to look for the information, it's out there, and therefore it's never been easier to succeed than it is today.
Yeah, I love it. So what is the common, I don't know if that's the right word, but what is it that you see in terms of influencers, successful influencers, people that, you know, you've interviewed and people that you socialize and you hang out with? What are the three, I guess, most successful ways of thinking, or the three kind of top mindset, attitude, whatever it is that makes them successful?
Yeah, great question. So consistency is number one. They are just driven, consistent people. And listen, they don't always feel like taking action, but they force themselves to take action when they least feel like doing it. And that's that small difference between the haves and the have-nots, right? It's, you take action when you don't feel like it. So that's number one. Number two, they don't care what people think of them. And that is really what's holding people back these days. Oh, I'm so afraid if I put this out there that people are going to comment on it, that people are going to judge it, that people are going to click unlike, that, you know, we're so dang afraid of trolls and strangers and people that mean nothing to us, yet they hold us back all the time. Well, the people that you asked me about, it's not that they don't have fears, but they are able to catch them, recognize them, and say, you know what? I don't care what these people think. I'm putting this program out there anyways. I'm putting this event on anyways. I'm going to make this speech anyways because it's true to me. And so they're being true to themselves. And when you're true to yourself, then there's nothing to be afraid of, because nobody can question what's true to you. They can question if your truths match their truths. Yeah, fine, great. But we're not all supposed to match anyways. What a boring world that would be. And so those are some of the traits that, you know, the consistency and not caring what other people think, that you really have to be able to start to master in order to reach that real top level of success. And by the way, look at those two traits. Everybody listening can start to master those two traits because they're choices. It's a choice to act when you're tired or when you don't feel like it. It's a choice to say, yeah, people might write something mean, but I choose not to care. So if every single one of us are capable of making the couple of choices that are the traits that make people successful, then that means everybody can be successful.
Yeah. And I think it's just like aligning with your own values, because so many people go against actually their own value. Like, we don't say something because it might upset the other person, or, you know, whereas actually maybe honesty or authenticity is something that's important to us, yet we don't show up that way. It's like,
yeah, it's so true. It's, you know, I would use being on video as one of the areas where people hold themselves back the most right now. Like, the shortest path to a big audience is being on video as much as possible. Facebook Live, shows like this, YouTube channels, you name it. If you are willing to put yourself on video a lot and not care what people think, then you can skyrocket to a following. And when you have a following, you can monetize it and make it successful. As long as you are being true to your beliefs, like you had just mentioned. So if you believe that money is unlimited and it's abundant, and you believe that in your core, then hell, get out there and talk about it. And who cares about the people that say, no, that's not the case. You haven't seen my story yet. Listen, I know that when people hear me on these interviews, half of them say, oh my gosh, this is what I've been hoping to hear. And the other half, they say, well, I'm different. Oh, that doesn't apply to me. Oh, you don't know about my upbringing. That's fine. Because you know who Grant Cardone is?
No.
Okay. No. Incredible individual. I had dinner with Grant Cardone, and I asked him this. I said, when did you decide to stop caring about what people think about you? Because he's one of these very abrasive type of individuals in a good way. Like, here's my story and I'm sticking to it, right? And he said, you know, a long, long time ago, I decided half the people are going to like me, the other half are not. And if I was if I was seemingly getting everybody to like me, then that must mean I'm not doing it right. And that's really true if you think about it. If you're pleasing, because people are so different from one another. So if you're pleasing everybody, that really just means you're being a chameleon.
Yeah.
It's impossible to please everybody.
Yeah.
Your goal when you wake up every day is to serve the half that needs you and to ignore the other half that's not quite ready for you. That's really the way it should work.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Because everyone's coming from their own view on things, aren't they? You know, like my interpretation of you is dependent on me, on the way that I see the world and the way I see you. So it's not a reflection on you, it's my interpretation of it.
Absolutely.
Right? But so many of us don't think that way. We think, oh, it's me. So yeah, flipping that's a really great way to think. There's always going to be people out there that don't resonate and don't connect with what you say, and that's okay.
Yeah. It's not your job to change their mind. It's your job to serve the people who are ready to resonate with what you have to say, because they need you.
That's right.
They need you.
Yeah. So now, you know, what is the number one value for you now then in your business? What is it that kind of drives you and keeps you, you know, in that creative mode and in that, you know, productivity mode?
I would say change, embracing change, seeking out, you know, how else can I start a program? How else can I reach people? What's next? Like, what are people just starting to do that is going to be the next big thing? So, you know, for a while it was pictures on Instagram, then it became video, then it became Facebook Lives, then it became YouTube channels with people, like literally videographers following you around all day, making your own reality show, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's always changing. So you have to ask yourself, okay, what are the biggest names just starting to do, and how could I do that? And so, for example, Lori and I hired a videographer, so you're going to start to see a ton of just daily video content coming out of us, because that is the fastest way to reach your audience right now. That's what people want. That's what they're craving. Their attention spans are short, and they want to tune into you every single day. And so if you really want to reach the right number of people, that's what you have to do.
Yeah, cool. Change. Change maker. Woo!
You got to embrace that change. Otherwise, you're going to be doing what everyone else was doing 3 years ago and wondering why it's not working. Because it's in
that's
your
right.
comfort zone.
Yeah, and things are changing so rapidly now, aren't they? I mean,
completely. Pretty soon it's going to be virtual. You and I will be doing this, and it'll be virtual reality, and we'll be in people's little family rooms, and someone will be saying, "Oh, I'm not quite comfortable being in people's family rooms." You know what I mean? Like, come on.
So I know you'd recommended, you know, your kind of top few books on the call that we did. So can you share those kind of like top couple of books that you recommend for people to read around money and what's really impacted you? For
sure. So there's a new book on the scene that I've moved right to the top of the list, and it's by Jen Sincero, and it's called "You Are a Badass at Making Money." It is fantastic for anybody who's saying, okay, without being too woo-woo and without being too far outside of my comfort zone, where can I start dipping my toes in and get some transformation? That is the book for those people. Then it's Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. It's a classic, and that will teach you things like about your financial thermostat, and that you even have one, and that it's up to you to change it, and whatever you set it at is what you're going to get, and many other things. And there's Think and Grow Rich, which is an old-time classic, of course.
Yep.
There is also, for anyone who might be spiritual or Christian, there's a book by Dave Ramsey called The Legacy Journal, where he literally uses biblical phrase and parables to prove that it's your responsibility to become wealthy and make money, and not to, you know, because so many different religions out there, they kind of poo-poo the idea that you're supposed to have a lot of money. And this is using biblical verse and parables to prove that you have a responsibility to. So, you know, there's so many different beliefs in the world. So you got to find the books that fit your beliefs and dive into that positive propaganda. And then for me, one of the things that has had the biggest effect on my success and my belief that I can succeed is reading biographies of the incredible entrepreneurs that I look up to. So whether it's Richard Branson's Losing My Virginity, whether it's Arnold Schwarzenegger's Total Recall, whether it's the new Elon Musk book, whether it's the Amazon book about Jeff Bezos, the book about Zappos. Oh, what is it? Delivering Happiness.
Yeah.
Delivering Happiness. Here's what happens when you read those books. You realize that the people that you think just are billionaires and just are smarter than you see the ups and the really big downs, and you see where the company caught fire and then it crashed again, and then it caught fire and then it crashed again. You see the weeks where they almost didn't make payroll even though they were a billionaire. Like, when you see all that stuff, you realize, wait a minute, they're no different than me. And it always feels like a shit show on fire. So I must be on the right track, because that's what you get by peeking inside of the real story of what happened to these people. It's great.
Yeah. Brilliant. Great. I hope you guys out there writing this stuff down. There's some great information here, and I definitely recommend grabbing those books. I wanted to just ask one more question before we wrap it up, and that's about money as energy.
Yes.
So, like, I'm just going to leave it there. What are your take on this? You know, money is energy, right? So how do you think of money in terms of that, in terms of the flow of the energy?
There's a couple. Yeah. So there's a couple of ways of looking at this, and I'm going to kind of paint the picture this way. So there's this system out there, and in this system, people are paying for things and they're receiving money for things. And if you think about how big the system is, it's huge. And you can pay for things in so many different ways, right? You can pay for it in US dollars, in yen, in cryptocurrency like Bitcoin. Like, you could trade. Like, I can trade you a bag of rice for a goat. Like, I'm not kidding you. You can literally create these transactions in so many different ways that you start to realize money is not just money. It's not this bag of coins that look a certain way. Money is the exchange of something, the honorable exchange of something. Money is the way that you are measuring a transaction as being fair, and that is it. So listen, if I needed a brand new pair of Nikes, and you had the very last brand new pair of Nikes, and I had an iPhone and an extra one, and you want an iPhone, if I gave you my extra iPhone for your pair of Nikes, that became our money. That became our currency. And there was no way to say that our currency had to look a certain way. It had to be a certain way. You know, I have a million pairs of Nikes, but I've got no US dollars, so I must be broke. Like, I know I'm being kind of extravagant here and painting this picture, but the point is this. There's this entire system out there of what I call an equal energy exchange.
Yeah.
And this system, the very same system that you're paying money and bartering and things out into, is the same system that'll pay you back. So the more that you are comfortable with putting money out into the system, whether it's investing in yourself, investing in an investment, buying something from somebody, being happy to pay a bill, the more that you put money out into the system, the more that this robust system will then circle back around and pay you back, because you're putting more energy into the very same system that is going to give you energy.
Yeah. So basically, the way that I interpret that then is the more value that I give, perhaps, or the bigger the value that I'm contributing, the bigger the energy exchange back to me.
Yeah, and value is perceived. Value, here's the most important thing to realize. Value is perceived. So if you are a brilliant doctor, but you don't have a lot of money, you could still be very wealthy because you can solve some significant problems for people, and they will find your medical knowledge to be very valuable. And before you know it, the money will start pouring in because of that knowledge you have. So that's just one example of, if you exchange value, regardless of what that value looks like, and you do it enough, then you're going to receive back way more value in whatever form that you choose to receive that back in.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. So do you have any words of wisdom to wrap it up? Anything else? Any other little golden nugget you'd like to give the listeners out there?
Yeah, I do. Start to question what is possible. And no matter where you're at, start to question what is possible. Start to become open to new ways of thinking. I liken it to trying on a new outfit, okay? Just start to try things on. And if you don't like the look, you don't like the fit, that's great. Take it back off, go back to your old t-shirt.
Yeah.
But nothing changes for you until you start to try new things on. Some you'll keep on, a lot of them you'll take right back off, but nothing changes for you until you start to try new things on.
Yeah, that's such great advice. Love it. Well, thank you so much. It's been such a fun call and some really great words of advice. And I'm sure everyone out there is going to take a lot out of this. Where can people find you? They want to hear more about your podcast. And
Yes. So thanks for asking. You can find my podcast at FOR, theloveofmoney.com, or you can just go on iTunes and check it out there. You can also find me on Instagram at Chris W. Harder.
good. So go and, have a listen to Chris's podcast. Check him out. Follow him. And thank you again, Chris. It's been an absolute pleasure. And again, so grateful for your time and your energy. And I look forward to staying in touch.
Judy, thank you so much for asking me to come on. It was my pleasure.
Thank you.